And welcome, everybody, to the first Fact Is podcast episode in 2024. This is episode 151. We're your host, Nate Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And I'm Stu Mowbray.
Welcome, everybody. Appreciate everybody joining us here tonight for, again, the 151st episode. We did take a hiatus last week, of course, being that it was the holidays. Wanted to make sure we had ample amount of time with our families and just being able to enjoy. So really glad to have everybody here tonight. But real quick, we're going to just brief touch up on what the topics are going to be. Going to talk about some migrants that are going to New Jersey train stations to avoid the New York busing restrictions. All the states trying to kick Trump off the ballot. That's going to be an interesting topic as well. Interested to hear what everybody thinks there. And then U.S. sinks 3 ships, killing 10 after the Houthi Red Sea attack. So as you all know, the Houthis have been attacking a lot. So be interested to touch up on that topic there. But gentlemen, let's talk. How are you all doing tonight? Ryan, start with you. How are you? Splendid. Damn, it's a beautiful
small word that has a large meaning.
I was going to say, that carries a lot of weight.
It does. You know, it hits a certain way.
It's a certain way. I like that. Stu, how you feeling?
Feeling good.
Ready to get this night started? Talk about some interesting stuff?
But first, did you guys have a Merry Christmas and a good New Year?
Absolutely. It was a fantastic Christmas. Great New Year coming in 2024. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say that the everything was pretty cool on that side of things. Had a good New Year's. Had a good Christmas.
Good.
Looking forward to get 24 started off on the right foot.
Absolutely.
Rock and roll.
Fantastic. Well, without further ado, y'all ready to get jumping right into these topics? I'm feeling pretty good tonight. Ready to jump right into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. All right. Love it. So first topic of discussion. Let's talk about the hundreds of immigrants arriving in New York City after being redirected to New Jersey train stations to circumvent new charter busing restrictions imposed by Mayor Eric Adams. So as you all know, of course, Eric Adams has been pleading with the government to help them with the overabundance of immigrants that have been showing up to New York for many different reasons that I'm sure we'll touch on. So the surge in arrivals, primarily from the southern border, has overwhelmed city services. New York received around 14,700 migrants arrivals in December, with officials processing approximately 161,000 migrants in recent months. Mayor Adams issued an executive order limiting where and when buses carrying migrants can drop off passengers in New York City. In response, bus drivers began dropping off migrants at New Jersey train stations instead. This shift is strategy emerged as a means to bypass the restrictions imposed by the executive order. New Jersey officials confirmed that multiple buses carrying migrants primarily headed for New York City have arrived at various New Jersey Transit train stations. They estimate of around 397 migrants arriving through this route. Mayor Adams highlighted the need for federal and state aid to assist the existing 68,000 migrants in the city's care, along with ongoing arrival of thousands more every week. He criticized Texas Governor Greg Abbott for sending migrants to northern cities without adequate provisions, accusing Abbott of politicizing the issue. Governor Abbott initiated Operation Lone Star to distribute migrants to Democratic-run cities like New York, arguing that these cities should share the responsibility of accommodating immigrants rather than burdening Texas alone. This situation has led to tension between New York City and Texas authorities, with Mayor Adams accusing Abbott of deliberately destabilizing cities by sending migrants without proper support. The issue remains a challenge for authorities in both New York and New Jersey as they navigate the influx of migrants and attempt to address their needs. So that was obviously the number one way I was going to suggest that, you know, a lot of these migrants are showing up was simply from the bus loads that they've been receiving from Texas. It's tough to... It's a tough conversation because you can see it from both sides. Of course, Texas has an overwhelming population of immigrants coming into their state, so they need support from their other cities. You can argue that it is also a political thing, being that Abbott is a Republican, Adams is a Democrat, and obviously New York is a Democrat-ran state as well. So, you can see where the division comes there. Ultimately, though, I feel bad for the migrants in the end because they're just kind of getting tossed around like they're not really anything. It's very sad that our state leaders are not finding solutions for these immigrants and instead just, transporting them from city to city and state to state. But at the end of the day, I would almost have to argue that's obviously a safer situation than what they're probably coming from anyways. So, thoughts, gentlemen? I'd like to hear what you think.
Well, I mean, the hard part is like you said, there's a ton of people coming across the border into Texas, and Texas is doing what it can to help stem that, and by sending these immigrants to these sanctuary cities.
Right.
I don't think that some of these places ever thought that they would have immigrants sent to them, especially in larger swaths. I think that was pretty evident with the Martha's Vineyard situation. And now New York City is becoming overrun, and it's like, they're out here begging and pleading and hey, we got to do something about this. And it was never a problem before it's happened in your town. You know what I mean? So it's like, is that something that should now be in an uproar, or is it something that, just needs to be figured out?
Right.
Because that's the hard part, man, is like, you are right. It's just people that are getting tossed around in the meantime.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Well, so I've already got some comments flowing very, very fast through TikTok here. So one individual said to look up the bonus army. It's something, about an agenda that's being pushed back in 1932. So I'm actually going to do a little research on that while we also hear from Stu. But according to them, just like a brief overall thing is 30,000 World War I vets, black and white united, stormed the Capitol. So this is obviously something that I'm going to have to kind of look into and see what's happening there. But
was January 6th?
It was it's called the 1932 Bonus Army. So this is something I personally have actually not heard of.
Wait.
So
they stormed the Capitol?
I'll give you a little more detail
Was
as
that
soon as I can
sedition?
figure this out. I have no idea.
Is that trying to overthrow the government?
It's a good question.
I mean, it looks like it. If you look at the pictures, that looks a lot like January 6th, just black and white.
Stuart, let me hear what your thoughts are about the immigrants being bussed up to New York, the situation that Eric Adams is obviously facing there in New York, and I will look into this a little bit.
Well, clearly we have a migrant issue, and that stems because we have a border issue. So we need to address the issues that are at the border in order to address this issue, because we can't just have random people flowing into our cities in the US, because I saw a picture here where there's people on the streets, and I mean, at what point is this like a state of emergency? Because like, this is just unacceptable to me. I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah, like we talked about, this is a first world country,
appalling.
man. This is horrible. This should not be the situation.
The thing is like, if we don't have the capability to bring in all these immigrants, right, and do it safely and effectively, then maybe we shut down the border for a little.
Yeah.
You know what? And until we get caught up. And then as we get caught up, then you can reopen it and, try to bring some people back in. But this ain't it.
No, this is not a solution.
Do you think so, Dave? Do you think this is a good solution?
Here's the other thing. If you went and talked to these immigrants, would they also be saying this is better than the situation they would find themselves in?
I'm sure they would.
Right. And so like it's hard to balance, and it's a hard discussion here, because you want what's best for these individuals, because we know why they're coming to the U.S. We understand why. They obviously see better potential here than what they did in their own sovereign countries. But is this a good look on the U.S. and how we're handling the situation? Not at all.
Well, I mean, how could we possibly come out looking good in this? We've accepted way too many people in way too short amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily our fault. It's just because there's been that many people showing up at the border.
Yep.
Now, on the flip side of this, though, one of the biggest things that one of the biggest threats to the way we live and everything right now is depopulation. Not necessarily right now, but within the next probably decade and a half or so.
Yeah.
As the boomer generation starts to really, decline and die off, you're going to see depopulation issues, not overpopulation issues.
Yeah.
And we don't have the replacement rate to replace the population that's coming in. So one of the ways that we could combat this is through immigration. But if this is our idea of what successful immigration looks like, then maybe we need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I agree. We need to kind of hit the root cause on that. And some of the discussion we had last week about being able to utilize, some of the land in the U.S. that is not being utilized now by increasing our technological advances and being able to build this stuff, we could give people plenty of jobs.
Well, I mean, you think about that, just that right there. If a company came out and said that they were going to build towns and use renewable energy sources to power said towns, right? They go out and they set up an electric grid based on like solar panels or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have like just a massive solar farm off, say it's in Utah or something.
Yeah, somewhere flat.
Somewhere that sees a lot of sunlight. And then they go in and they start building towns for these immigrants who are coming in. That's a huge moneymaker.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, but secondly, it's going to be tough because you have people coming from all walks of life, from all different countries. A lot of those countries don't get along.
Yeah, true. But I mean, at the same time, again, they were already coming here for a reason, giving them an opportunity to be able to thrive for them and their families, providing a job, Well, yeah, there's always potential
you don't
oppositions out there that might have a different agenda than what we expect, right?
Yeah,
so
then what you would think.
Yeah.
Coming in, you think you're getting out and trying to get away from that stuff. End up accidentally bringing it here.
There is that potential as well. So real quick, just want to touch up on this 1932 bonus army. So it seems like it was like a promise to a lot of these World War I vets, again, black, white, whatever, and they all kind of band together to it was right at the beginning of the Depression, and they basically camped out in front of the U.S. Sorry, I'm blanking here. Right out in front of the government buildings in D.C.
Right out in front of the country or the people's house.
Yeah, essentially, right where Congress, U.S. House and the U.S. Senate were taking votes, and they were promised to pay pensions, from what I'm being able to gather, and then it looked like Brigadier General Pelham D. Glassford first entered this picture and was one of the authority figures that was coming out saying he was asking Congress for about $75,000 to just feed the marchers alone. Well, 2 weeks later, the U.S. House approved it, but the Senate rejected it. President Herbert Hoover had promised to veto the bill. Things stayed in unsettled condition for a few weeks, with some veterans leaving, but even more arriving, and their number reached somewhere between 10 to 20,000, and it just kept growing and growing, and eventually, from what I can see here, it looks like they did end up getting their bonuses right after they peacefully protested, but it did turn out to be violent as well.
What kind of person or piece of crap government sends people to go off and die, promises them bonuses when they get home?
Yeah.
And then they come home and they're like, I don't know what to tell you, bro.
And you wonder why they got pissed off.
Yeah. Like, why would we get mad about that?
Yeah. So that's essentially the basis of what I got there. So that's an interesting thought, interesting thing to kind of look into. Of course, it's a piece of history that shows when you continue to fight against the majority of your people, they will be willing to stand up sooner or later.
What was that sedition?
Great question, Ryan.
Was it? I'm just asking.
Do you want to answer that?
No, I don't want to answer.
I don't want to answer that.
So, I mean, was that trying to overthrow the government?
I mean, they didn't necessarily try to overthrow the government. They just wanted their rightful dues. So,
yeah.
You could just call it a really,
really peaceful sedition.
Yeah. Good protest until it started turning a little violent. But again,
did it turn violent?
It did turn violent towards the end. But they were able to get things under control, and then eventually, when they were able to peacefully disperse everybody, and they were able to get them what they needed.
That's bullcrap.
Yeah. So interesting thoughts there. The 1932 Bonus Army, look it up. It's a good thing to chat about. So like that. Stu,
Yes.
did you have anything else you wanted to add about the migrants going into New York? Ryan, you as well?
Yeah, I'll just say with the migrants in New York and New Jersey that we've talked about in the past, we want a healthy immigration system. We want people to come to this country. We want people to thrive. We want people to live the American dream, etc. But what we've seen, I mean, really since COVID, just this immigration process is not a healthy immigration process, and it needs to be addressed like now, yesterday.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it's only becoming worse as we continue to see more and more immigrants coming across that border every single day.
Yep, I would say so.
Yeah.
If only there was some kind of device that we could use that would halt the crossing of said border. Maybe a large structure that was tall and deterred people from trying to go that way.
I think you're referring to a wall.
Oh, you said it, bro, not me. Whoa. Hold on now, Nave. Hold on.
We'll get in trouble for that one. No, I mean, again.
Wait, didn't Biden say he was going to start building the wall again?
I heard that as well.
Didn't we cover that?
They added to the wall.
Did they add to it?
Yes.
Are they still adding to it?
I don't know.
Ay, caramba. I wonder if we could reallocate like just 1% of the military's budget to, one, go fix like roads and bridges, and then two, like, maybe improve our border security down there.
Yeah, because you have on average somewhere roughly above 7,500 migrants crossing every single day. Yeah,
7,500? That's it?
According to the
I thought it was way higher than
well,
that.
that's per day. So from the statistics I'm looking at with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, it looks like in total of just had it. Oh my goodness, I lost it. Okay, in total of FY23, we had 2.4 million. FY22 was 2.3 million. 2021 was 1.7 million, and right now, going into FY24, of course. So, and it looks like it goes from October to September is the way they're taking this. Right now, the totals are at 483,000 alone, just for the new fiscal year of 2024.
That started in September?
Yeah, it looks like theirs go from, or started in October, ends in September. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell. Yeah, so.
Because that's about the time every year when we get the whole, oh my God, the government's shutting down.
Yeah.
They can't come to an agreement.
Yep. So that looks like where their fiscal year ends and picks up. So, I mean, as of right now, like I said, 483,000. We're already on track to beat last year significantly.
Yeah, going 500,000 in like 2 months.
2 months. So.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it's continuing to increase, and we're not finding any solution towards it, and this is where our issues are arising. So,
just one more thing I want to add.
Let's hear it.
We see these people sleeping on the streets in New York, and the residents of New York, they pay taxes. They're American citizens. The other side of this coin is like, what is their right, the migrants' right, to like infringe on those people in that state? Like, I know they're all people.
Ooh.
They deserve to be cared for in an ethical way, but at what point are you infringing on the American citizens of this country and their right to life?
That's a very interesting question.
You said it, not me.
I do like that thought though, because these are American citizens that are paying their taxes, and
well, like, just think about it. In our neighborhood, if we had people just sleeping on our streets, I mean, that's an issue that has to be addressed. Like, we pay taxes in this area. We're citizens of this state and this county, you name it. Like, we were born here. We have a right to be here. So, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, that's a great
Well,
question.
and to kind of piggyback off that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
please.
Go ahead. To piggyback off that, it's like, do the people who are here seeking asylum, do they have a right to be there? You know, like if you're infringing on other people's liberty and way of, or their livelihoods or way of life, but do you necessarily, if you're here seeking asylum and you're here, unofficially, I guess, I don't know. I don't think they're here illegally, but I think they're here unofficially. They're seeking asylum.
Not necessarily vetted the correct way.
Yeah, vetted the correct way. Do they have a right to be there?
These are.
It doesn't sound like they do. It sounds like they have a right to be in the country, but what does that look like?
Right. I mean, but if you have a right to be in the country, then theoretically you're following the same laws as every other American citizen. You're under the same kind of statutes. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but if they don't have all the same like documentation, if they don't have all the same stuff as we do,
because it takes.
I don't know. I'm just asking these questions. I'm hoping that somebody has an answer to that.
I mean, it's difficult because when you first get here, you can get here just on a work visa alone, and then when you try to earn your way towards citizenship, I'm sure there's different guidelines, and you have different. Again, I would say. I don't know. I'll be 100% honest, but I'd imagine, with your work visa, you probably don't have the same amount of rights that a normal American citizen might have. But I can't answer that question right off the top of my head.
I think it depends on the visa. I really do.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not sure 100%, but I think it depends on the visa. I think it depends on what you're here for, like what you're doing for work. I think there's a lot of different things that go into it. So,
yeah.
Well, long story short, the system is broken. It needs to be addressed.
Terribly broken.
Yeah,
that's Charles Barkley would say. Terribly.
That is long story short, and that is obviously like the root cause of all of this is being able to find a way to vet these individuals properly, making sure they're not infringing on other people's rights, and allowing them to have a sustainable lifestyle here in the United States, and for what the country can, what kind of opportunities they can give them. So we gotta figure this out, and we gotta figure it out fast because unfortunately there's just more and more people coming to the U.S. every single day.
Like yesterday.
So,
well, I think that was a good topic.
That was a good wrap up. I like that one. So
we were all, we all gave good opinions, asked good questions,
good conversation.
Hit us all with a really hard one. Nave's talking about keeping people out with the wall.
Sometimes you just got to cut to the chase.
Sometimes. I like it. So, all right, let's talk about our second issue of the night. So, we're going to discuss how a lot of states right now are looking to remove Donald Trump from the ballots. So, this is something that we're going to go right into. So, Maine's top election official has removed former President Donald Trump from the state's 2024 ballot, citing a clause in the Constitution that bars insurrectionists from holding public office. This action marks the second state following Colorado to block Trump based on the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which disqualifies officials who engage in insurrection. Multiple other states are considering challenges seeking to remove Trump from the 2024 primary ballot, arguing that his alleged role in January 6, 2021 Capitol riots makes him ineligible to run. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled in favor of barring Trump from its ballot due to its purported involvement in the riots. A decision now under appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. 13 states currently have pending lawsuits aiming to remove Trump from the 2024 ballot, with various challenges initiated by a lesser-known Republican candidate, John Castro. These lawsuits contend that Trump's actions disqualify him under the 14th Amendment. However, some challenges have been dismissed that lack evidence or standing. In Maine, Secretary of State Sheena Bellows removed Trump from the primary ballot, stating that his actions preceding and during the Capitol riot disqualified him, giving his inflammatory rhetoric and failure to prevent violence. This decision applies only to March primary and could be appealed in state courts. The controversies over Trump's eligibility for the 2024 ballot continues across several states, with legal battles centering on his involvement in the Capitol riots and interpretations of the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause.
What happens when they write them in?
I mean, yeah, then what are you going to do? Because anybody's allowed to be written in. So if enough people just write them in at the end of the day, does it really matter?
I mean, I'm sure that's going to hurt his numbers, but
Sure, because he's not right there to circle a bubble.
just hit the little bubble. But the people who are going to vote for Trump, they know who Trump is.
Yeah.
And they know why he's not on the ballot.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie. This is pretty. It's pretty concerning overall, right? Because
it's actually quite amazing that the Democratic Party can get on the same page like this.
I mean, yeah,
across the party
over one thing.
Yeah, but like, where is that kind of as continuity in our government? Like, why can't we get on the same page about anything else?
Right.
Why is the Democratic Party like, yeah, when it comes to Trump, man, we'll get together as a country of left-leaning individuals, and we will come together, all of us, and we will stop this man from getting on.
Yeah, and what scares me the most, I mean, is seeing this attempt to exclude Donald Trump from these ballots, because they have no sufficient justification by any means. Because he doesn't have a criminal conviction against him. You can't blame him for January 6th. I mean, because he even told people to not be violent. Don't be, go home.
He said peacefully. Like, if you watch what his speeches were, peacefully, we're going to march down to the Capitol peacefully. We're going to let our voices be heard. What is it? Like, I think the riots really popped off at like 12:30, 12:45, something like that. At 1:15, he's on saying, go home.
And I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I don't necessarily agree with everything he does. Long story short, he's not necessarily the guy I would vote for. But at the end of the day, I do see this as not being justified. You should not be able to take him off the ballots without criminal conviction. And it just seems like,
well, criminal conviction of insurrection.
Yeah.
That's what the 14th Amendment is talking about. Not just somebody who, like, I don't know.
He's still going through a lot of these court cases as well. So until they even get resolved in the first place, until he actually gets convicted, I mean, are we really allowed to do this? Because again, I am not a huge Trump fan, but I also believe that until he gets convicted for crimes, innocent until proven guilty. That's just what this country stands on.
Dave, does he have a charge for insurrection against him right now?
I think he has indictments out there, but that's it. No actual.
No. I'm asking. Like,
convicted
does he have
charges?
He's got indictments for insurrection specifically.
Let me make sure. Have indictment.
Or sedition or something like that. Because I know he's got some stuff out there for like fraud. I know he's got some stuff out there for like money stuff.
So they are saying through ABC News that former President Donald Trump has been indicted in the special counsel's investigation into his alleged plot to overthrow the 2020 election. So I guess you would call that an insurrection, yes. So I guess he does have indictments out against him, but no actual convictions.
And I mean, just as a normal person looking at this situation, like, how does he get convicted of that? Does he get convicted of that?
We'll see.
I don't know. I mean, I just, as somebody who was living in the time and watching it all unfold. Oh.
Yeah. Stu, I see you have something pulled up over there. I would love to see what you got to say over there about that.
Yeah, it was just something that came to mind. I remember hearing that Joe Biden wasn't going to be on the New Hampshire primary ballot, but obviously for different reasons than Trump not being on Colorado or Maine's ballot.
I don't know for sure, but is it due to like the issues that him and Hunter Biden are going through, obviously with using their name through Ukraine and through China, and a lot of the issues that we're seeing with the money and what's going on with Hunter Biden and his indictments right now? Is that kind of why they're taking him off? Do you know for sure? Because I do not. I'll be honest. I have heard this myself, but I'm not 100% sure. So it looks like
I was just
the move is the latest development in a long simmering dispute within the Democratic Party over which states and regions should have the first say in determining the party's presidential nominees every 4 years. Iowa and New Hampshire have traditionally kicked off the nomination process for both parties, but other states have challenged their prime placement in the calendar over this year's. This has resulted in states leapfrogging one another and steadily earlier start to the primary campaign season. Biden, who placed fifth in New Hampshire in 2020, urged Democratic Party officials last year to rejigger the primary calendar. That is such a weird word. With South Carolina in the leadoff position. His 29-point win in 2020 South Carolina primary ended his string of embarrassing early state losses that year and puts his campaign on positive footing to win the nomination. The DNC adopted the president's proposal and scheduled the South Carolina primary to lead the party's nomination process on February 3rd, with New Hampshire and Nevada to follow on February 6th. However, New Hampshire indicated its intent to maintain its first-in-the-nation primary status in violation of party rules and risk possible penalties from the DNC down the road. Rather flout the rules he urged the National Party to adopt, Biden chose to stay off the ballot in New Hampshire. Okay, so it had nothing to do with what I thought. But, I thought that was an interesting theory.
But it's surprising that there hasn't been more backlash over, the corruption and the money laundering and all that stuff.
A lot of people argue it's because it has nothing to do with Joe Biden himself, his son, and it's like, yeah, but he still used that name, and his father allowed him to use that name, and he also.
The other thing is where Joe got a check for $45,000 from his brother.
Yeah, and then we talked about the whole quid pro quo that he, all sorts of things.
He was fired.
So,
dude. You just
it's interesting.
The
there.
math ain't mathing.
But it looks like so for New Hampshire wise, he will not be on the ballot. Is at least what they're looking to go towards. So
totally tubular.
Now the question comes about if they do start to indict Biden on some of these charges, whether it be embezzlement or whatever, and they start working towards impeachment, does that mean that now red states are going to start kicking him off their ballots?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, man. This is going to be a scary election year, gentlemen. I don't know what's going to happen.
Baby.
Yeah. I don't exactly know what's going to happen, but it'll be geared up for a very intense 2024.
Could you imagine Vivek versus, what's that guy's name out of California?
Newsom.
Newsom.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom. Because Trump nor Biden are on the ballots.
Either that or it'll be DeSantis. I don't think he's dropped yet. I mean, yeah.
Bruh.
He used to be good.
He was a great governor during COVID.
Then something just changed.
I don't know what changed, but that man jumped off the right wing. Right wing diving board.
So real quick, Stu, go back up to that title there. Just like me and Ryan were talking about, write-ins are still an option. So regardless of whether it's Biden or Trump, the write-in is still an option.
Well,
so,
like I said, the thing is I don't know that Biden is going to have that pull like Trump.
Right.
If Biden's name's not on the ballot,
they'll probably go for whoever the D is.
Yeah, which Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Or Kamala Harris. Mayor Pete. I don't know who else is running on the Democratic side. Nobody really. Because there's not been any primaries. Maybe it's RFK Jr.
Right. Who knows?
That's I think that's where this whole thing just comes crashing down, because if you take one off but you take the other off, then the one, like, if Trump or Biden are both gone, I think Trump still would win that race by write-ins. Like, if they had to be written in to be able to be voted for,
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that.
I would think Trump would win that.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know. He just seems more popular.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, it would be an interesting year, like I said, but a lot of this is just, we're just beginning 2024. So it's going to take a little bit, for all of this to kind of smooth over. And once we actually start getting to election time, we'll see what the final results are going to be. But as of right now, it's looking like states are looking to kick Trump off of their ballots. Some states might potentially start kicking Biden off their ballots if that path goes down where it is right now. It's just New Hampshire. So we will ultimately see. That's kind of where I'm leaving that statement at, because I don't want to kind of dive too deep into this until we actually have more facts, and obviously it's tough right now.
It seems like the New Hampshire situation is the DNC.
Yeah, the New Hampshire situation is just a DNC in general. But if
Not like the state taking action to kick him off the ballot.
right, but if a lot of this goes through where they're talking about impeachment with Biden, then I feel like the states on the right will start to work towards trying to kick him off.
I think if he gets indicted,
And they're
if an indictment comes down, all of a sudden I think stuff starts hitting the fan.
and that's what we're looking at, because we were reading earlier, I think it was last month, about how the Biden family, the Biden name, and some of how they're trying to look towards, I believe it was embezzlement charges, if I'm not mistaken. I could be off on that. But I knew they were looking to indict him and impeach him for certain things. And I can look that up real quick to be specific, because I do have a question as to what he would be impeached for. Let me check, because I know we read something about that.
That girl is poison.
So right now they're saying, somebody else talk. Give me a minute.
Can't get. No. All right, I'm done. I'm not gonna sing anymore for you guys. But, I mean, this would be a great opportunity for the lesser known candidates to really get themselves out there. Also, did you see that the GOP pulled 12.8 million viewers, or Fox? I'm sorry, not the GOP, but Fox drew 12.8 million viewers on the last GOP debate without Trump on the card.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay.
they're gaining some steam.
It looks like if they are going to impeach him, they're going to essentially impeach him for high crimes and misdemeanors. So Article 1 says abuse of power. Article 2 says derecollection of duty. So I guess
dereliction.
What is it?
Dereliction of
Dereliction of duty. Thank you.
Okay.
However you say that word. So yeah, it looks like those would be the two things that they would look towards impeaching him for, and that they actually have drawn up for 2003 to 2024. Yep. So they're still working on it, of course, and
No corruption charges in there.
I didn't see anything. No.
I mean, if Swalwell can't get hit with a true corruption charge after,
House
having
committee
a relationship with a Chinese spy.
So, I mean, the House is apparently beginning to impeach for impeachment proceedings against Biden over border policies. That's a CNN article. So, I mean, it's very hard to even tell what's true out of that. But
oh, dude, if that's a CNN article,
which is interesting, because
they're not painting him in a good light.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Oh boy, I bet you impeachments are coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I mean, to really aim down specifics, I'm struggling to find here, but I just know, I mean, clearly if CNN's talking about that they're bringing formal impeachments against him, I mean, clearly.
Well, the House passed like a impeachment inquiry, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know the specific charges. I'm struggling to find that.
Into the Hunter Biden situation. And then Hunter Biden's being indicted on tax evasion stuff, isn't he? Did we talk about that like 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Yeah, Hunter's being indicted on tax evasion and firearm while influence of drugs or something or another. I think is what it was. I don't know for sure. But this is a great opportunity for you to not look at the two main candidates that are out there.
Isn't
and
that the
maybe
truth?
look around the room and look around at who else is running for president. Look at the Viveks, look at the RFK Juniors, look at the Ron DeSantises, look at the, Gavin Newsoms, and just see what else is out there. Like, you don't have to be spoon-fed the crap at the top of the ballot. You really don't. You can make your own educated decision. Now's the perfect opportunity for you to learn something about the other candidates that are out there.
Yeah. Don't play the political game that's been going on. I agree.
I mean, if we all band together and wrote in Mickey Mouse, would that make Disney the president?
That would be very interesting.
Oh, because, I mean, according to the one amendment that we read 2 weeks ago, that corporations are people.
Yeah, they have a freedom of speech to spend. Spending money is a freedom of speech for corporations. Yeah,
so
it's extended through the 14th Amendment.
If everybody just voted for Mickey Mouse, would that make Disney the president?
So I am seeing a number of different things on here. I have an individual here on TikTok asking me about the specifics. So I have a couple of different things. I'll be honest, I can't really pinpoint this, and I'm struggling to find it specifically. But
Start throwing sources up. Let them do their own research.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple things from Congress.gov, AP News, The Hill, all that, Reuters, Guardian, blah, 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 BBC. So what it looks like is some are saying there are allegations of fraud, and some are also talking about how they're looking to hit him with how he handled the border situation. So those are the two that they're and bribery, enabling bribery. So it looks like those are the ones that I'm able to find just off a brief look without having to dive deep and looking to move on to the next topic. But yeah, I mean, if you could find anything more specifics too, I'd love to hear it. But kind of full circling this, coming back to again, Trump being taken off the ballots, it's not fair. And again, I'm not a Trump guy, but at the same time, without any criminal convictions, without anything actually holding him to being a criminal, there's no reason he should be able to be taken off of these ballots. He should have his fair representation, just like I believe any of the smaller parties, the Green Party, your libertarians, whoever, your constitutionalists, all of those different parties should be represented as well. And that's just my opinion. The more parties, the better. Better opportunity for democracy, better opportunity for honest discourse, and to really show who could be the best candidate overall. So
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, that's just kind of like full circling this and bringing it back. But
I just want to add to the Trump discussion,
please,
real quick. Just kind of sum it up in my terms. Like you guys were saying, it's very interesting that they can go through with this kind of thing, and Trump's not even convicted of, what they're saying he is. So, and I'm not an expert by any means in this kind of thing, like from the state level.
Right.
They have their own process, and I know it goes all the way up to state Supreme Court and all the way up to federal Supreme Court. So we'll see how this plays out. But to me, this whole situation is very interesting because I would say you don't want to go down this road because it does seem like a very slippery slope. And how you said, Naif, that are Republican states gonna start trying to take Joe Biden off the ballot? I mean, it's just all these things over the years. We get tired of it, and we really just want the voters to decide. We want to have I know it's too much to ask, a non-corrupted election process. Like, we just want people on stage that are not picked for us. We want to pick the ones that go on stage and they just discuss ideas and quit with all the BS and let the people of America decide who they want their president to be, and stop taking people off ballots. And yes, convict them of crimes if they committed crimes, of course. But just this whole year in general with the Trump stuff, like, I know they have to go to trials and stuff, and we can go all the way back to like Russiagate and all that stuff.
Right.
It just seems like these things never end and they never go anywhere, even with the Hunter Biden and the Joe Biden situation. I mean, we hear about these things and it's just like we're sit here week after week. Well, we have to wait for the evidence. And yes, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to jump to conclusions here. Like, I want to wait for the evidence to come out. But like, how long are we going to sit here and just discuss these things? And, it's almost like our political system just wastes everybody's time. And then when it's almost time to go vote, like, everything is just, we see these politicians, they make these gut reactions and they try to do something for the people and say, oh, look what I did. It's like, what were you doing the 3.5 years before, I went to the ballot box?
Right.
So with that entire rant, like, please, people that go out and vote, pay attention to what these morons, for lack of a better term, are doing in between the voting process. Thank you.
I like to do.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm agreeing with all that. Like I said, I just want a fair process. And I want to be able to, vote for whoever the best option is, and I want to know that our vote counts. So, it's just hard right now because there's a lot of distrust in our government, and we have to find a way to turn that around ultimately. But again, what I think that would take is root cause again. Like, right, let's go back down to the root cause. We need some damn term limits on these senators and
Term limits.
yeah, these congressmen and women. So,
Hey, can I just read this thing on Newsweek right now? Trump campaign slams his removal from the main ballot. The main Secretary of State is a former ACLU attorney, a virulent leftist, and a hyper-partisan Biden-supporting Democrat who has decided to interfere. What does that say? Hold on, get off the continue part there. Oh, I can't see where that. Interfere in the presidential election based on behalf of crooked Joe Biden. We are witnessing in real time the attempted theft of an election and the disenfranchisement of the American voter.
This is
See, it's just crazy to me because he sits there and says something like that, and then, like, if you ask people on the other side, they say he tried to steal an election.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
constantly this back and forth.
Yeah.
And, people like us are just like,
what is going on?
We're over here like, bro, just stop poisoning our food. And stop have kids, making chocolate. It should be eating chocolate, not the other way around.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Call back.
I like this discussion on TikTok though. This individual said, "I'm not convinced term limits would make any difference at all. Could make lobbying worse." Which is interesting because then lobbyists would just kind of help set up who's going to be next in line constantly. Maybe
do you get rid of lobbying?
Yeah, so you get rid of lobbying.
So then there's your next root cause, right? The 5 whys. That's one of the best business analysis tools to be able to figure out how to eliminate an issue. You get down to the root cause by the 5 whys. So why would doing term limits not help? Because of lobbying. Okay, so would removing lobbying help? And if not, why? Then you just keep asking why and why until you get down to the root cause, and then you find what it is that's creating these symptoms.
I don't know. I think term limits and lobbying. I think you cut those two heads off, and then
you got some pretty big. strides.
I say we do it and see where we're at.
Yeah, right.
Like, just see what happens. It can't be any worse.
All right, cool. Let's touch up on our third topic. That was a really good discussion. I really appreciate y'all for that one. So,
okay, that's a trippy photo.
Let's circle it around. I know, right?
Because there's the sand
in the background, and then these
there's huge boats on the water.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
So let's talk about our third topic. So U.S. helicopters repelled an attack by an Iran-backed Houthi militants on a Maersk. M-A-E-R-S-K. I've never been able to say that word right. Maersk? Is that how you say it? Okay. Maersk container vessel in the Red Sea, sinking 3 ships and killing 10 militants. The naval battle occurred at around 3:30 GMT on Sunday. As I don't even know what GMT stands. Is that like something maritime? I don't know what the time zone is. No idea what the time zone is. On Sunday, as the attackers sought to board the Singapore-flagged Maersk Hangazu. Helicopters from the USS Eisenhower and USS Gravely joined the ship's security team in repelling the attackers after receiving a distress call. Maersk said it was pausing all sailing through the Red Sea for 48 hours after the attack. A spokesman for the Houthis said the group carried out the attack because the ship's crew refused to heed warning calls. 10 Houthi naval personnel were dead and missing, and their boats were attacked by U.S. forces in the Red Sea. The naval battle underlines the risk of regional escalation in fighting as Israel continues with its relentless bombing campaign following a Hamas surprise cross-border attack on the Israeli towns on October 7th. Yemen's Houthis have been targeting vessels in the Red Sea since November to show their support for Hamas, prompting major shipping companies to take a longer and costlier route around Africa's Cape of Good Hope rather than through the Suez Canal. The United States launched Operation Prosperity Guardian on December 19th, stating that more than 20 countries have agreed to participate in efforts to safeguard ships in the Red Sea's waters near Yemen. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron has urged Iran to help stop Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, expressing gratitude for the U.S., French, and UK's efforts. BIMCO's head of maritime safety and security, Jacob Larson, expressed hope that more states will support the coalition with naval assets or diplomatic pressure on the Houthis and their sponsors. So I'll be honest, I actually do not know what... Oh, it's the British Foreign... No. BIMCO. I have no idea what that stands for, so I'm going to look it up. It looks like... the Ballistic and International Maritime Council. Okay, that's who that is. I didn't know if I've seen that in my summarization there, but
hold on, scroll down still.
What are you seeing there?
Keep going. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
There it is.
Look at that.
That's what I was looking at.
That is a huge difference in time.
A wee bit.
So it's a 26-day trip through the Suez Canal. What is it when you're going around the Cape of Good Hope? 36-day.
That's 10 days.
Damn.
Wow, that's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Not as bad, but that's still a lot of cost.
Still 10 days.
Yeah,
And
that's
a lot of stuff dies in 10 days.
Yeah, that's tough. And the amount of mileage too you're putting on those boats and everything. I mean, it adds up after a while when you're adding another 3,000 miles every time you're going around it. 3,300.
Could you imagine being one of those like boat captains, just being like, yeah, you know, I sail through the Suez Canal every day.
Yeah.
And they're like, say what? And you're like, you know, I might make it through, I might not. We'll see how it goes.
See how it goes. Yeah, I mean,
because it's always been under like turmoil, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
it's never been like this is gonna be a trip, a walk in the park.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
bro, I cannot believe that tea still makes up that large of a market.
Oh yeah,
that's insane.
I love tea. So let's talk about the Houthis attacking these ships. I mean, are we shocked that the United States is finally retaliating? It's not unexpected, and we're just going to continue to see this until the Houthis decide to eventually end their campaign to back Hamas. So the more that they continue to fight this, the more that the United States is going to pour our own resources into ensuring that this stops. I mean, there's no way anybody's shocked by this. If you continue to attack our allies, we're going to attack back. And especially if all it takes is, you know, a helicopter or two to go out and sink a ship. And unfortunately, I mean, it's 10 human beings who are dead, whether they be Houthi rebels or not, but it is, again, 10 more human beings that are dead. So,
yep.
I don't know. I mean, it's just going to continue. Like, nobody should be shocked that this happened.
Me, and then I'm going to attack you back. Like, I mean, that just is what it is. Like, you can't just go and be like, no, I'm going to shoot you or shoot at you and not expect to get shots back.
Yeah, exactly.
And our shots just happen to be a little more accurate.
Which is why it's, you know, hard to also back Hamas with the situation we're in, because back on October 7th when they launched their attack, I mean, did you not expect Israel to retaliate? I mean...
See, that's what I've said since the beginning.
Yeah.
I am against the indiscriminate killing.
Like we talked about last week.
But...
Or 2 weeks ago.
If there's more people dead on that side than there are on this side, then that sounds to be like a successful war.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Isn't
war
that
is
the
ugly.
goal of war to kill more than you have killed?
Yeah,
I definitely think they knew that Israel would retaliate. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so like, what was their plan in that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're going up against these forces that are so much larger than yours, you know.
Man,
you should try to find diplomatic
side of it. They're like, no, we're not going to take this anymore.
But
okay, we just
diplomatic solutions. If you can gain, you know, support with peaceful protests and actually go to make a change, right? Like we've seen where peaceful protests have made a change before. You know, you go back to Martin Luther King and that time. Now, granted, obviously after he got assassinated, there was violence there, but liberties came to African Americans after years and years of protests. And I'm not saying that it should have taken as long as it did. Obviously, I think people, had their blinders on and couldn't see past ethnicity for that whole situation, and it was a tragedy. And African Americans suffered for a very long time. But I guess my point is, especially in today's day and age with social media and the internet and the ability to influence, start pushing international relations and say we want a free Palestine. Don't resort to violence, because what's it going to do besides kill people and waste money?
It's going to kill people and waste money.
There you go. So we're not creating a solution, and this is and then women's suffrage as well. That's a great point as well. Thank you, Vincent, on TikTok. Yeah, women's suffrage as well. So the women fought for their rights as well, and majority of all of those protests were peaceful. Yes, you had the occasional one that broke out because there were times where lines were crossed, and there needed to be a riot, because riots are sometimes the voices of the unheard, and they deserve to be heard. And sometimes it does take a little bit of violence, but to these lengths is a little interesting,
I don't think it ever needs violence.
Doesn't need it, but
I mean, I guess there are certain circumstances in the world that do require violence, but that is not us endorsing.
Oh, absolutely not. I never endorse violence.
Saying that violence is the answer.
Violence should never be the answer, right?
I mean, if it can be helped.
But if I am standing there with my brothers in arms and we're peacefully protesting, and somebody just pulls out a gun and shoots one of us,
oh yeah,
again, retaliation. It's defense. So there is bound to be violence in that sense. It is a last resort.
Again,
you don't want to use it.
Us condoning or supporting or saying that violence is the answer.
But
I just need to make sure that people
clear.
understand that is not us calling for violence. That is not us condoning it.
I will never say violence is the answer. That is not by any means what this statement is about.
Even if $100 million is involved. Sorry, it's that
joke. But to say that peaceful protest is the way to be able to make change is 100% what I agree with, because it's been proven to work over and over and over again throughout history.
Didn't Gandhi change the world with nonviolent protest?
Exactly. Look at some of these world leaders, these leaders throughout history that use peaceful protests to get what they needed. And again, did violence erupt out of some of it? Yes. Was it asked for? No. It was a point of defending yourself at some point. And again, nobody wants that. But you can't step into a ring with someone, well, unless it's slap boxing, which is not a sport.
Kind of is now with the power slap, but
I hate that. It's not a sport. No shot. But you can't step into a ring with someone and just continue to take punches and not expect to retaliate against, right? So again, if we're condoning that it's okay for Israel to retaliate against Hamas, then any of these other these protests in history were all condoned because it was, again, trying to defend themselves. And 99% of it was peaceful. You push them to the length of where it wasn't.
Yeah, I agree with that, Naif.
So,
what do you think, Stu?
Well, I think to understand, where we are today is you have to understand the history of Gaza and Israel and Palestine, and their whole conflict. So, starting from there, and we know today that Israel controls a lot of things, well, mostly everything that goes into Gaza and goes out of Gaza. So, and I'm not an expert on the situation, but did Hamas rise up out of that, all that control that came from Israel? And we do know that Israel has attacked Gaza many times, even before October 7th. They mow the grass, as they say. So, this issue has been, going on for a long time between these two sides. And now you have present day. You have this attack on October 7th where Hamas attacks Israel, and then yes, you're going to have Israel retaliated, and they go in and basically try to level Gaza, it seems. And then you have Iran backing Hamas. You get all these groups backing each other. And then, the United States, we fund Israel. We back Israel. So it only makes sense that these Iran-backed groups are going to start attacking Americans because we back Israel.
Mm-hmm.
What is the enemy of your enemy is my friend?
Yep.
So a lot of these things you just have to read up on and do your own research. But it is unfortunate because we are in this situation where now American troops are going to be getting attacked from this situation. And, I'm not going to make any predictions, but it just seems like it's going to escalate from here. And it's only a matter of time before we actually really get involved in this war. I know we're just kind of like a guinea pig at this point. Or not a guinea pig, piggy bank. Sorry,
Piggy bank. No,
we're a piggy bank. So it seems like only a matter of time to me before we actually, start
Like officially get in.
Start being the aggressor, because we're not just going to sit back and let our ships and troops keep getting attacked. Like, I just don't see that happening.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see that Biden? I saw it. Now I don't know the validity of it, but I did see a post that talked about Biden doing an executive order to send ammunition to Israel to bypass Congress to do so. I was like, dang, if he did that, then what about like all the other stuff that he promised that he was going to do that he hasn't done?
That's
like
interesting.
The homeless stuff,
right?
The border protection stuff.
Man, I don't know. That's interesting, but I kind of want to full circle on Stu's point here. So, not a lot of people can even. Well, there it is. Yeah. Biden administration approves emergency weapons sale to Israel bypassing Congress for the second time this month. Biden administration is bypassing Congress to approve an emergency weapons sale to Israel as Israel continues to execute its war against Hamas in Gaza. Interesting. Well, so that's happening.
Like kind of like a backdoor deal.
Yeah, that's happening. And then, kind of touching up on what Stu said there, it is difficult because, nobody actually knows when this conflict arose. Some will say it was before Christ. Some will say it was back in 1948. Some will say all these different words, right? Nobody actually knows when it occurred and how it's going to end. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to.
August 7th, 763 BC.
Let's go with that one.
That's where we're going.
I mean, yeah, how do you know when people can't even agree on when this conflict has taken place? Like, you'll never have people agree on everything, right? And this is one of those things that it's going to be a conflict forever. And they are just going to have this animosity against each other until, even if you can eliminate the history and try to find a way to just let's solve what's in the now, then maybe you have a chance, because you can look at your differences you don't have to look at your differences. Being able to eliminate history and say the past is in the past, let's look at what we can do right now to fix things, I think is a big step towards a lot of the issues today. Because I mean, you can just, let's just take, let's take Palestinians and Israel's, for example. If you just say, forget what happened, let's find a way to create a solution today for us. I mean, then you're just restarting history in a sense.
I get what you're saying, but that's like saying, okay, um, you know, that's like saying, okay, why don't we just eliminate religion?
Right.
Why don't we just, eliminate racial ties and things like that?
Right.
Why don't we just eliminate nationalities?
Just look at us at the one human race.
We are the one human race against the aliens.
I mean, I would like that, but
I still got it in.
Yeah, I mean, still got it in, of course. But no, I mean,
aliens, bro.
and I'm not necessarily eliminate history, right? You can keep history, but history is always going to be skewed one side or another. The winner of all these conflicts is always going to white out their own sins and what they've done wrong. Like when we go back to Vietnam, were we right to invade that country? There's a lot of people who would argue that the U.S. had no say in Vietnam, that we shouldn't have been there. But according to our history, we should have been there. So I'm not saying necessarily eliminate history, but and to continue to repeat it, but to create the beginning of a new history and being able to, again, look past these issues that have been creating these conflicts for years and just boiling down to kind of like what you said, we're human beings at the end of the day. And being able to differentiate,
it all comes out in the soup, man.
I mean, yeah, we were all 6 feet under at the end of the day. We all operate the same. How is it so difficult to be able to look another individual in the eye and be able to just come to some sort of conclusion with them? It's weird to me.
And you know what the craziest part is logically speaking. Now, this is purely logic. I'm not trying to get in a religion debate with anybody or anything like that. Just purely logical, right? At the end of the day, we all end up 6 foot under the ground in a box. And that's where we stay.
Yep. That's
I mean,
the
from
end
a
of the
logical
day.
standpoint. If you want to get into like the philosophy and the theology and stuff
Sure.
like that, sure. Okay, you have your beliefs of where your soul goes.
Everybody has their faith, their beliefs. Everybody has their own thoughts and opinions.
But this body, this
Vessel,
physical
whatever you wanna call
appearance,
it.
this vessel, whatever you want to call it, ends up in a box 6 feet under the ground, or it ends up burned,
Or yeah,
like turned to ash.
yeah. Actually, you can get turned into a tree nowadays too. They like ash you, put you in soil.
You know what would be really terrible about that? Like, I want to be turned into a tree, and then they turn you into a tree, and then like 100 years from now, it gets cut down, and like they print the Bible on it. Oh, dang! Didn't see that coming.
But yeah, so I mean that's full circle for me.
I can't get over this Biden administration bypassing Congress. Like I'm kind of pissed about this. Like what keeps them from just calling anything an emergency and bypassing Congress?
I mean, we haven't had a constitutional war since World War II, so
Right.
Dictatorship.
I mean, yeah, these are things that I think people need to, be aware of.
it's just what they're allowed to do. It's what we allow them to get away with. It's all on the U.S. citizens ultimately. So
I mean, that is absolutely just a loophole.
yeah,
It's like, oh, it's an emergency. We need to absolutely sell these weapons to them so they can kill people with them.
yeah. So
Wait, what?
well, this was some good discussions tonight, gentlemen. Anything else we want to kind of end this note on with obviously, I know we ended up going from the Houthis all the way over to Israel and Hamas in general, but it all interconnects. So I mean, it's so difficult.
I'm kind of like what you were just saying, man. Like, we're all people. We're all gonna end up in the same place. We might as well come together now before the aliens get here than after, because if we do it now, then at least we can mount a defense.
We have some sort of a chance.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, maybe it's not aliens, maybe it's asteroid. But
maybe
if we're all sitting here and we're fighting each other, and then this big rock falls out of the sky and wipes us all out, well, that was kind of a waste of time.
Yep.
So maybe we should just come together to start fighting real existential threats.
I don't disagree. Stu, any other last thoughts before we start closing out?
With the Israel and Palestine Gaza situation, I would just tell our viewers to go listen to our past podcasts because, we covered it for weeks and weeks. And I know we haven't been touching on it as of late because we've kind of, cover other topics, but this war or whatever you want to call it is still going on. You know, I hate to say this, but it's just the news cycle moves so fast, and like people become numb to these kind of things, and it's been happening since October 7th. I know that when it really hit the news cycle, and it's just like, another one of them things where I do feel like we will look back, and it's just like there's so much time wasted, there's so much money wasted, so many lives wasted, and we're just going to look back on this whole situation and just be like, it could have been handled so much better, and a lot of these things could have been avoided. And I hate to go back to Russia and Ukraine, but there's talks now. Even Putin, he's willing to negotiate today, and so when that's finally set in stone, the whole negotiation, because it's going to happen sooner or later.
Right.
We're just going to look back, and it's like, all right, what did the United States gain from this?
All of those billions sent over.
All those billions sent, and then all, us giving Ukraine, thinking like they had a fight in this thing, which, I mean, granted, they did do pretty well considering the size of their country, but all the lives that have been lost over that. So that's how I feel about this situation. Like, we can sit here and talk about the details, but at the end of the day, people are dying that really shouldn't be dying. We have countries and diplomats, politicians, you name it, not knowing how to communicate with each other and just sending us further into war, putting military at risk, putting civilians at home at risk, and I'm just sick of it.
Yeah.
That's where I stand with this.
All right. That's a good way to end this. So, appreciate everybody who came by tonight, all the viewers, all the people sitting here having a conversation with us. Really appreciate the discourse that you all were giving us. That's obviously what we love to hear and see right here. We love the drive, and we love being able to communicate with you guys. So,
and also, while you're here, make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow, and throw a comment or two up for us as well. Just because those things help us serve you better and help us do this. I mean, it really just makes us, better at what we do, and it makes the experience more enjoyable for you.
And for all of you who are wondering where you can do all those such things at, it would be on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok,
The Royal Rumble,
and Twitch. Also, if you all are interested, you could donate $1 a month to our Patreon. What that would help out is that would help give us the ability to start taking this podcast to newer heights, different levels, and being able to invest in things to be able to, again, ultimately serve you all, the people, because that is what we are here to do.
$1 hair.
$1 hair. And if we got 1 million people to do that, that's $1 million hairs that we can do a lot with. So
you can almost have a whole Barbie.
Almost. Please remember to share this with people that you love, but also share those with people that you disagree with, because ultimately we all have more in common than what we don't. We are all looking to come to the same conclusion. We all want the same thing. You just don't realize it yet. We all want a lot of the same thing.
You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Enjoy.
Wait, what?
So I want to say thank you to a lot of different people here, like I typically do. So thank you to all military personnel, active duty and retired, law enforcement, fire and rescue, doctors, nurses, paramedics, hospital staff, farmers, those in American manufacturing, those in social work, helping with the mental health crisis that we have going on in the U.S. Thank you all so much. You all do a lot. And last but not least, ethical congressional representatives.
And unicorns.
Because
they also don't exist.
I like that. Closing thoughts, gentlemen, please.
I'm gonna let Stu hold this one off. I'm a floating head.
Ultimately, like Nave said, share this with people you agree with, but also people you disagree with. Learn to see things from other purple. Learn to see things from other people's perspectives. I do believe that we have more in common than we don't. And like I say every week, try to build bridges. Don't burn them down. Be nice to people. We think it's important to be involved in politics here, and important to know what's going on and what's happening in the world. And so that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to just have these conversations every week, and we know sometimes they can be hard and complex issues, but we're willing to have the honest conversation, and we're hoping that people out there can join in on it too, because we're trying to learn as well, and we're just trying to grow as thinkers and people with ideas, and just try to come together as a country and the world, really.
I like that, Stu. I would say my closing remarks. While geopolitical issues are multifaceted and they can be complex, at the end of the day, what is it that everybody's looking for? They're looking to thrive. They're looking to survive. They're looking to, pass on some kind of pursuit of happiness to their posterity. And that just doesn't go for Americans. That goes for everybody across the world. We're in their own right. They're trying to leave the place better than they found it. And it just is a matter of perspective. So before you go and, just start thinking down upon somebody because of an action or maybe, an event that happens has you feel in some type of way, take a step back and look at it from a different perspective. And that will help you gain some enlightenment. How's that for a serious end of the
That was
podcast?
a good one. That was a good one. I really like that.
Yeah,
So,
and I didn't even have to use ChatGPT to come up with it.
I don't for mine.
I'm just
I
kidding.
use it for my summarization.
I'm joking. I wasn't actually meaning that to be a call out, Dave. I was like,
making me cry.
sorry.
With that being said, thank you all so much. Obviously, first episode of 2024, looking to continue this strong throughout all of 2024, do new and improve things as we continue with this podcast journey. Of course, we would ask you all to join us in every way, again, through our social medias, and also, if you would like to, donating through Patreon, because ultimately we are here for you all, the people, and that is who we want to represent. We would appreciate if you all came on this journey with us. So, with all that being said, we're going to end the 151st episode of the Fact Is podcast. We were your host, Nate Moses.
I'm Ryan Mays.
And I'm Stu Mowbray.
And we will see you all next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, for 152 episodes of the Fact Is.